Hello and welcome to Used Car Heaven, the programme that helps you get behind the wheel of your next car. Small cars used to be all about budget motoring. Practical, yes, economical of course, but usually nothing to get excited about. But size doesn't matter these days. As our roads get more and more crowded, it's cool to be short. This week our viewer is testing 3 Sassy cars, all under 4 metres long. And if my 3 cars aren't quite what they're after, John Slattery will offer his own alternative pint-sized transport. And of course, Simon Hughes, the car doctor, is back in his surgery looking for more cures to your car's mechanical problems.
Hi, my name's Stephen Brown. I'm an occupational therapist and I've got £10,000 to spend on something to have a bit of fun in at the weekend.
So let's find out what he thinks of our first car. If I said the words coupe and cabriolet, or CC for short, does that give you a clue? This car continued the growing trend for electric folding metal roofs, which started with the Mercedes SLK, except this car cost under 16 grand new. But what will Stephen think of the Peugeot 206cc? Well, Steve, the first car of the day, the Peugeot 206cc. Yep. I mean, first of all, what about the looks of this car? Does it look good with the roof up and down, do you think?
I think it'd grow on you to actually, for the roof to be up. Down it looks fantastic.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think with the roof
really
up
smooth.
It looks a little bit, something not quite right there maybe.
It's a little strange. The front end looks wonderful, the back a little bit quirky.
Yeah, a little bit. What about the price of these things? I mean, they're about £15,000 new for a 2-litre model like this. Same engine as you get in the GTI, 138 brake horsepower, 2-litre. And what does it mean? What does it feel like to drive? Does it feel quick?
It feels quite quick. Something that I would imagine would be quite comfortable on the motorway.
I would think so.
As well as
and quite
bobbing
well
out
with the roof up. I mean, the back seats in this, to be honest, are a bit of a waste of time because they're very upright, and I wouldn't fancy sitting in the back of that.
I don't think you could sit behind me. I don't think there's any room at all, because I've always got mates and what I used to take out as well.
You wouldn't get them in the back there.
But no,
no chance.
They're all as big as me.
The 206cc started out as a show car. The 2.0 Heart concept was unveiled at the 1998 Geneva Motor Show. Thankfully, the card trick name was dropped, and 3 years later, the little convertible appeared on our shores as the 206cc. Available with 2 engines, a 2-litre petrol from the 206 GTI and a less powerful 1.6 petrol. So why should you buy a Peugeot 206cc? Well, the electrically retractable steel hood offers all the thrills of open-air motoring without the security worries of a conventional fabric roof. Find a 2-litre SE model like this and you get everything as standard. CD player, power steering, central locking and climate control. And even now, 2 or 3 years after the launch of the 206cc, it still looks a pretty cool car to be in, albeit a bit girly. So what should Stephen be paying for a good 206cc? Early 1.6 litre models can be picked up for around £8,000, while a 2002 52 plate 2 litre SE will still fetch around £12,000. For 10 grand, we recommend Stephen go for a 2001 2 litre SE. He should be able to find a low mileage example and will benefit from the extra power the 2 litre unit provides. But what will Stephen think of Peugeot's 206cc? Well, Steve, that's the first car for you driven, Peugeot 206cc. What are your impressions?
Thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it looks fantastic from the front. You know,
looks quite mean when you come low down, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. I think overall, maybe the colours don't help. Maybe look a little bit girly-ish.
Yeah, nice black one of those look all right.
That'd be nice, yeah.
2 litre, I think, is definitely the one to go for. I mean, I think the 1.6 in this will be a bit underpowered. It's quite a heavy car, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it felt really well built and quite heavy, and I think if you do have a smaller engine in, you won't get the same effect when you're driving it, really.
No. So, quite keen on that.
Yeah.
All right, that's the first car driven. Let's see what we've got lined up as this week's second car. This manufacturer is better known for producing tiny city cars than small sports cars. Inside the tiny exterior is a mid-mounted 698cc turbocharged engine, pumping out 80 brake horsepower, enough to crack 0 to 60 in under 12 seconds, and go on to a top speed of 112 miles an hour. But what will Stephen think of Smart's Roadster? Well, Steve, we thought we'd come up with something very, very different. in the form of the Smart Roadster. And this is very different.
It's very different.
It's very cosy in here for the two of us.
It certainly is.
There's not a lot of room, is there?
I think initially when you sort of look at the car, you think, where's the radio control? You know, it
Yeah,
does seem
did that
to
thing
be...
come in the packet of cereals this
Yeah,
morning?
it's a very strange. I was quite surprised to sort of sit down and start driving and you realise there's actually an engine under there.
There is an engine somewhere.
An engine that picks up a bit, really.
So, I mean,
yeah.
in the sort of horsepower stakes, this thing's got practically nothing. You know, lawnmowers have more than this, but it's such a light car. It's you know, just a lightweight, isn't it?
Nippy with a bit of oomph.
Yeah. Inside, it's well equipped. You've got everything you could possibly want, including heated seats and electric windows, and
Yes.
and of course, the open top as well.
Open top as well.
This is electric. These two side panels come out as well.
Right. So we've got scope for a convertible.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think this is worth the money? I mean, these are about sort of £11,000 brand new. So, for £10,000, you're going to get practically a brand new one, almost.
Yeah, I think it depends on exactly. I mean, because yes, it's something, you know, looking for at the weekend, but at the same time, you want to be reasonably practical.
Could you see yourself in one of these?
I could if I had £10,000 just spare.
As a second car?
As something just
to use at the weekend?
Just to use primarily for, and because I can imagine it'd be a hell of a lot of fun driving it.
Another car that started life under the bright lights of a motor show stand before making its way onto the streets. Unveiled as a concept at the 1999 Frankfurt Motor Show, the Smart Roadster finally made it over to the UK in right-hand drive form this year. The Roadster is available with two engines, a 61 brake horsepower 698cc petrol and a more powerful 81 brake horsepower version. There's also a hardtop Roadster Coupe for those who need more than 86 litres of boot space. If you're after a small, fun car, then you must take a look at one of these. At 3.5 metres long, it's a metre longer than the Smart City Coupe, but still minute by hatchback standards. On paper, acceleration isn't anything special, 0 to 60 in around 11 seconds. But it's fun even to drive at slow speeds, and it's economical too. It'll get you 55 miles to the gallon. And because there aren't that many about, it's a bit of a head turner. It just looks so different. So, what should you pay for a Smart Roadster? The car has only been out for a short while, and so second-hand examples are quite scarce. The cheapest cars are coming in at under £9,000, although they will be early left-hand drive imports. Now this rises to over £12,000 for a nearly new car. But let's find out what Stephen thinks of the Roadster. Well, Steve, that's the Smart Roadster, the second car for you. I mean, it looks a bit weird, doesn't it? A bit quirky, but on the road, it's quite good.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, like you say, the gear shift and things like that. But once you get used to it, I think there'll be a great amount of fun in driving that.
What about this as an everyday car, though? Is this a realistic practicality?
Completely impractical.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a weekend car,
as a weekend car,
if you could afford to have it as a second car, it would be ideal, wouldn't it?
If you've got the money and you can just go out and say, right, I'll have that as a second car just for the weekend. You know, you pop your bits, pop stuff in the boot, off you go for the day.
What about those Formula One?
It's fantastic. I've always wanted to do that.
It's good, isn't it? Well, I kind of get the impression I know which of the two cars you prefer so far, but one more still to drive. But before that, let's head off to our surgery to see what the car doctor Simon Hughes is up to this week.
This week we're looking at exhaust systems. Now all cars have got exhausts fitted, and they're fitted so that they can take away the poisonous gases from the engine to the back of the car and also make it quieter. And an exhaust system is made up of a series of pipes, boxes and catalytic converters. Now then, quick tip, don't bother having an exhaust repaired these days because exhausts can be bought quite cheaply and fitted, and it might cost say about 25 quid to do a repair on a corroded back box, which nobody will guarantee, and you can't sort of say how long it's going to last. And it might only cost about 45-50 quid for a new box. So if you're keeping the car, you're far better off spending your money on a new part and having it fitted. So that's tip number one. Don't bother having your exhaust repaired, get a new one on it. Second tip is that some people want to actually fit performance exhaust parts to their car. Now this exhaust box looks fantastic, but it's about 150 quid, and it's not actually going to make the car go any quicker unless you've actually maybe tuned your engine, had something done to it, maybe a rebore or a better camshaft in it. So don't bother spending your money unless you just want it to look good, because you're not going to go that much faster. All it's going to do is dent your wallet and maybe make your engine noisier, which will annoy you on long journeys. My final tip is catalytic converters on cars. If you are going to buy a car, and catalytic converters are fitted to cars after 1992, so if you're buying a car that's younger than 92, then get it checked for emissions before you buy it, because it could cost a few £100s to repair it. And if you find, you know, when you're testing the car that it is faulty, it may be a good bargaining point to buy the car. So they're the top tips really for exhaust. Don't bother having your exhaust repaired, fit a new product. Unless you've tuned your engine and you've spent money on that, don't bother fitting a performance exhaust. And if you're buying a car with a cat on it, maybe get it checked before you buy.
So far on this week's programme, our viewer has got behind the wheel of the Peugeot 206cc and the smart Roadster. But there's one more car for Stephen to drive. It's probably the most fashionable car of the past couple of years. Join me in a couple of minutes to find out exactly which one it is. Hello and welcome back to Used Car Heaven. On this week's show, Stephen Brown has around £10,000 to spend on a fun car which also needs to be good around town. He's already driven the smart Roadster and the Peugeot 206cc, but let's see what he thinks of this week's third and final car. When it comes to building a follow-up to what is regarded by many as the most important car of the 20th century, it's wise to take your time and get it right. So while the follow-up isn't quite as minuscule as the original, it has proved a real hit. But let's find out what Stephen thinks of the Mini Cooper. Steve, the third and final car for you. Yeah. Something a bit different. You've had two cabriolets, so we thought we'd give you the car that is the current fashion trend, I think, in the motoring world, the Mini. And this is the Mini Cooper.
Splendid, isn't it? It looks, I mean, the original, it looks like an original Mini inside, you know, because you've got your centre speedo, things like that.
They've just done such a fantastic job on this, haven't they?
They have, and thankfully it's bigger than the original Mini as well.
£11,600 for a brand new one of these, again, I think is fantastic value for money.
I'm surprised, I thought it'd be a lot more than that.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It feels like a quality car,
It
doesn't
does, and that gear change is really smooth.
Although this car shares its name with Alec Isigonit's legendary car, first launched back in 1959, that is where the similarities stop. This Mini is a budget BMW. When BMW took over Rover in 1994, work started on a new Mini. When they sold it in 2000, Mini wasn't part of the deal. It stayed with the Germans. Available in 4 models, starting with the One, then there's the sportier Cooper and bonkers Cooper S, with a 163 brake horsepower supercharged engine. Finally, for the first time in Mini history, there's a diesel version of the One, with the same cute Mini looks, but 60 miles per gallon economy. So let's get the sensible reasons out of the way first about why you should buy a Mini. This car loses money slower than any other car on the market at the moment. If you bought this car new, it would have cost £11,250. You could keep it for 2 years, put 20,000 miles on the clock, and it would still then be worth £10,865, which means you've lost less than £400 in 2 years, which is quite amazing. It's also well built, reliable, cheap to insure, and it will still do 42 miles to the gallon. Now the Mini will go from 0 to 60 in 8.5 seconds, do a top speed of 120 miles an hour, and even though there are plenty around on the roads these days, they are as desirable as ever, which leaves the silly stuff. Those rear seats are just not sensible. With them up, the boot is absolutely tiny. And I'd better whisper this, because think about this. If you buy a second-hand Mini, you're basically paying for someone else to have 2 years of Mini enjoyment. Thought about that? So what should you be paying for your Mini? Mini Ones start at around £7,500 for early 2001 cars. Prices rise to over 20 grand for a desirable Cooper S model. This is well over list price, but some people will pay over the odds to beat the waiting list. With his 10 grand, we think that Stephen should look at the Cooper model. They're still quite brisk and lots of fun to drive. But let's find out what Stephen thinks of the Mini Cooper. Well, Steve, I think that's a great car, the Mini Cooper.
It's excellent, yeah. I mean, it just handles so well. It's got plenty of power, you know. You put your foot down, it'll move. All round excellent.
I don't think there are many bad things to say about this car, are there?
No, maybe it's red.
It's red?
Yeah.
You don't like the colour, but
no,
apart from that,
but
you
apart
could live
from
with it.
that.
And in terms of putting your money into a car, this is fantastic value at the moment. It just holds its value so well.
I think so. I mean, because you see a lot of them around. They don't seem to be falling down that quickly. And after all, we've got a BMW under there as well.
At the end of the day. I think I know where you're going as your final decision. Don't tell me just yet, though, because before that, we need to see what John Slattery has lined up as this week's alternative car.
We've been waiting for years for Citroen to go back to their roots and create a truly innovative vehicle, the type of vehicle that made them famous. And with this, the Pluriel, they've done just that. Based on their C3 Super Mini, the Pluriel is for those who can't make their minds up. At the flick of a switch, it transforms from practical Super Mini into a summery open top. Remove the roof bars and you've got a 4-seat convertible. Fold the rear seats and you have a mini pickup. Inside, I have to say I'm a bit disappointed because there is just so much plastic. But under the hood, the oily bits are well proven, so you won't have any problems there. You know, it's a pity the Pluriel doesn't drive as well as it looks. The steering is extremely light, and the handling, well, you just feel totally detached from the car, really. You know, I think driving this car, you could have an awful lot of fun. Now, there is an option which could cost you 900 quid more, and that's having paddle shifts, which are these little things on the steering wheel. I don't know why you'd want it, because it does really strange things like that, and it will confuse you half of the time. You can stick it into automatic, but that begs the question as to why you would pay 900 in the first place to get it, not to use it. Doesn't make sense. No. Running costs are on a par with the C3. The main problem we can see will be careless owners damaging the removable parts, so check these carefully. I wouldn't want to be the one to pick up the tab for a replacement roof assembly. Second-hand Pluriels are a bad bet for bargain hunters as they're unlikely to shed much of their value. Individuality does come at a price. It's an awful lot of fun for the money. And you know, I think it's going to be an acquired taste, but I think it's going to tinkle an awful lot of people's taste buds. After waiting such a long time, it's great to get such a funky car from Citroen.
Stephen didn't take to the Citroen C3 Pluriel. Although he liked the idea of a 4-seat convertible, overall he thought the Pluriel was a bit too girly. So let's find out which one of this week's cars Stephen will choose. On this week's Used Car Heaven, we're looking to find a new car for Steve, who had a budget of £10,000 to spend on something that was a little bit fun. Now, Steve, 3 great cars today.
Three very good cars.
3, 2, 1. Your final decision, please.
Third place, going for the Smart Roadster.
Smart Roadster.
Yeah.
Quirky looking car, but on the road, surprisingly good.
Excellent. I mean, funny little gearbox. Get used to it.
Get used to it.
Hell of a lot of fun.
But a weekend car more than anything else,
not really
I think.
practical.
Is this going second place?
This is going second, yes.
Peugeot 206.
Yeah. Again, really good car to drive. You know, it could pick up handles well, roof down, wind through your hair.
Motoring, yeah.
Excellent.
You really liked that when we took it first
Really
out.
did.
Yeah. But once you've driven this, well, does it all, doesn't it?
It does. Again, like the others, handles really well. It's so smooth. It's pick up. It's just an excellent all-round car, really.
A great place to put your £10,000, I think. Let's take it out for a spin. Well, Steve, you made the final decision.
Yep.
It's the Mini Cooper for you.
It's the Mini Cooper.
Go on, are you happy with this?
I'd be more than happy with this car.
Would you?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing seems so well put together. You know, they've thought about everything right down to the air vents in the dashboard. You know, there's obviously thought gone into the car.
And it just drives so well, doesn't it?
It drives so well. It drives so you're almost not thinking about it. It sounds wonderful. I mean, when you put your foot down, you get a little bit of acceleration there, and the sound that goes with it. It's wonderful.
And at the moment, if you're putting 10 grand into buying one of these, your money is well spent, and you're not going to lose that much money either.
No.
Because these are just holding up in the market so well.
If you want it and you're willing to pay for it.
Well, I think it's a good decision. I like this car as well. Here's what you need to look out for. The 206cc is generally a good car with very few problems. The only minor niggle is based around the brake master cylinder. The linkage from the cylinder to the brake pedals runs across the bulkhead under the dashboard. It's known to become noisy and very annoying. Although the Mini is a BMW, it does suffer from some fit and finish problems. Some cars have had to have their doors and windows adjusted because of wind noise. Rear light clusters can mist up with condensation, but will be fixed if the car is still under warranty. And something you might not expect are squeaks and rattles from the dash, seats and seat belts. Like all smarts, one area that you need to pay particular attention to is the key. It has been known for the key to lose their security codes, without which they won't work. Make sure you know how to reset the key manually before it goes wrong. Check the handbook. There have also been reports of some minor body rattles, water leaks and the petrol cap flapping around. On this week's Used Car Heaven, Steve Brown was after a new car. With a budget of around £10,000, he was looking for something which was fun to drive, but also good around town. So we offered him the Peugeot 206cc. Open top motoring, looks great with the roof down, and a cracking 2-litre GTI engine too. But not quite good enough. Neither was the smart Roadster. Once you get used to this car, it can be a whole heap of fun, and there aren't that many on the roads. Great car to use at the weekends, but not as an everyday car. However, the Mini Cooper is just brilliant. £10,000 would buy you a second-hand Cooper, and if you can stretch the budget that little bit more, you could get yourself into a Cooper S. That's it for this week's Used Car Heaven. Join us again at the same time next week when we'll be helping another viewer find their perfect car.